There was this thing with Kim Kardashian where she was pumping crypto, and those cryptos were just rug pulls, straight rug pulls. So everybody would go buy the crypto, they pull, everybody lost their money, but she got $1 million or 10 million or whatever. I don't know how much money she made off of it. She was paid a certain amount of money to advertise that. And then they came in and hand slapped her and said, don't do that. That's illegal. What you're doing, you can't promote that way. And she got fined, whatever, $1 million or whatever. Well, if I'm making 10 million and I'm getting slapped $1 million, it's still business as usual, right? Welcome to another episode of Dental Riffs. I am your host, Gary Bird. I am the CEO of SMC National. We are a dental marketing firm that helps you have predictable new patient flow.
I am Tanner Applegate, the CEO and founder of Unified Dental, the single sign-on solution that helps make your life so much easier in this fragmented world of all your softwares.
Tanner, I am stoked for today's call because we got podcast, I should say, because you just texted me and we talked about it a little bit ago about a lawsuit that's happening in the dental industry around marketing specifically. So I would love to jump into that if you're good with that.
Yeah. I always can tell when it's going to be a good conversation because like we first get on, we do a little bit of like, hey, how are you, et cetera. And then like we just start talking. We're like, whoa, calm down. Let's do this on the pod. So that was one of those days where we're like, okay, we went down too much of a rabbit hole. Let's pull it back for the pod. So you guys are in for some juicy treat that Gary and I both are very passionate about.
So Tanner, let's just share the backstory. Tanner texted and said, hey, you better read up on this because I'm talking about it today. And it was a link to a story that is about a lawsuit that, here's the title of the ad. Attorney General's office reaches $3.5 million settlement with Aspen Dental over claims of deceptive advertising. And so I started doing some searching and it looks like they had another lawsuit just a couple of years ago. And then there was some other activity around that. So first,
this
Tanner,
also plays... One of the things too we can go in a million directions with this, Gary. I think that's why we're passionate about it. Another thing too that this ties into is this idea that there's some other business models out there that are going to be threatened to get sued for malpractice of our advertising, right? So I wanted to chat with the GOAT himself of dental marketing and say, okay, what does the guidelines say around like what makes it deceptive versus not deceptive? So let's start with Aspen itself, right? Aspen, this time around, and I say that because this is not, as you alluded to, the first time around that they've gotten hit with lawsuits around deceptive advertising. But this time around, they got hit with kind of 3 different infractions. The first one being, hey, we accept all insurances, when in reality, they didn't accept the Massachusetts Medicaid or Medicare that had dental benefits. That was one thing. The second thing was they said free services, and I don't know exactly how detailed they were on that, but they end up having to pay about $700,000 back to patients that they charged for, even though they claimed free services. And then the last one, the third one was no hidden fees, right? So they'd say, hey, this is an all-in inclusive denture pricing, no hidden fees, and then they'd come in and end up getting sent to collection because of these hidden fees that may not have been explicit in this all-encompassing thing. So to me, a lot of those, like there's a lot of things that I'd love to chat with you about. I want to go with the hidden fees one though, Gary. That just like, as a DSO owner that's approving an advertising budget, right? Like the no hidden fees just seems so scary to me because
I don't even understand that. I don't understand it. Help me understand what that means. Like, what does that even mean?
I don't, the way that I would do it was like, hey, this is your all-inclusive, like, budget for dentures, no hidden fees associated with it, right? Like, okay, like in my mind, that makes sense. But the reality is like, there's so much more that it goes into diagnosing someone's dentures that, yes, you're going to have to add something onto that. Maybe they don't even need dentures.
Yeah, so why wouldn't you just say starting at X? Why wouldn't you just say plans for all in 4, plans for dentures starting at $5,000 or whatever?
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what my mind would be. It's like, let's use the vague term and not the direct term. So I'm curious from your marketing perspective, is there any value that you can see in being that direct in wordage or messaging?
I can't. No, I don't. That's why I don't understand it. I don't understand what no hidden fees and then they're hiding fees. And then what are the fees that they're actually hiding? So what are you hiding that you're trying to roll up into the actual fee itself?
Yeah, I think one thing when I was running a DSO where I tried to get into an all-inclusive pricing from a competitive standpoint was orthodontics.
Yeah.
Right. Orthodontics has definitely moved into more of a direct to consumer marketing strategy. And so pricing is a huge component of why people choose different orthodontics.
But here's the thing, Tanner, you should be positioning it around payment. you focus on the payment. Focus on the lower dollar amount, especially with larger treatment. If you can get it down to $49 a month, starting at $49 upon approved credit, right? Like that covers you. And then it's like, well, what does that include? Well, it includes these things. And you want the people to get on the phone and ask you questions. Now, I will say, if your people aren't trained on the phone, or you have a lot of people, and it's hard to train a lot of people, it's a hard thing to do. You're doing it at 20 offices. Imagine trying to do it at 1,000 offices, right? So there's difficulty to it, and then there's the accountability to it as well. That's difficult because knowing that everybody's following that is hard to do. But that I can understand why they might not want those questions, and then they would just go with the simple answer. That's something I could understand, where it's like, okay, we're just going to make it simple. Our price is this, you get everything, yes. And then the patients are coming in. But that leads to really ticked off patients, really, really ticked off patients. And that goes into the second one that you brought up, that telling people things are free and then charging them for it is another great way just to make everybody upset. And what I thought, as I read it, what I thought they were doing, because I've seen people do this, where they go, hey, patient, free cleaning, right? But then they're like, but we're billing your insurance for $300. So it's free to you, but not free to your insurance. And that's a subtlety there that most people don't catch. So I thought that was maybe what they were doing.
And to clarify that too, that's actually billing fraud. Mm-hmm. Right? If you are giving a discount to a patient, you have to be explicit with it upfront to your insurance. So now if you say free services for uninsured patients, like that's one thing, right? But if you're saying free services to all patients now, and you don't charge the patient, but you do charge billing, like I could see that being a huge hand slap from the insurance companies there in Massachusetts, but it wasn't. This is from the Attorney General on marketing. So it's a marketing problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is.
And then the last one that they did was we take all insurances. This is something that I've always struggled with as a DSO owner. Not that we take all insurances, right? It's the whole idea of like, you're in and out of network for all insurances. You can say, most people say we take most insurance.
We take most insurances, right? Yeah.
Medicaid is never usually on. I mean, okay.
What about we build all model, PPO? I've seen people do that one successfully.
But that always makes me nervous, is like, yes, we build all PPO definitely kind of closes that door a little bit. But yeah, when you're out of network and you don't explicitly tell someone you're out of network because you say, yeah, we'll bill it to your insurance. In my mind, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm in network now. I don't have any knowledge of anybody getting slapped with deceptive marketing principles through that. Have you ever seen that?
No, and most people don't market it that way. It's a phone scripting thing, because most patients, so we've actually looked at this quite a bit, and most patients, when they call in, they don't ask you, are you in network, are you out of network? And it's really, really hard to answer these kind of questions unless you're just like a fee-for-service office that you're not in network with anybody, where you're like, no, we're not. But patients don't ask that. Patients always just ask, hey, I have this insurance. How does that work? Or do you take it? And then that's a very nuanced conversation. And the insurances are changing all the time. So usually if you get into the PPO conversation, it's like, hey, is it a PPO? We bill to most PPOs, or we build all PPOs. And that's a much easier conversation to have. But then there's education that has to happen at the office level. Here's the thing. The education has to happen somewhere. It's either going to happen in the upfront on the marketing piece, it's going to happen on the phones, or it's going to happen in the office. So where do you want that conversation, that friction to happen? It looks like they were punting it all the way into the office on all of these things that we're talking about for Aspen. It looks like they were punting them all the way into the office from the articles that I'm reading. So that's a very interesting way to deal with it, but it also creates a lot of angry patients.
What do you think of the 3.5 million? Do you think that that's going to impact Aspen at all?
3.5 million? I mean, what is? I'm just Google searching Aspen reviews actually.
Just shy of $1 billion in revenue almost.
So that would be like
Aspen's doing.
So like $20 to us, $100 to us,
right? Yeah.
I don't know, $1,000 to us, maybe $10,000 to us. Like
3% of it annual. Yeah, it's not going to be a ton, but
it's 3% of their annual.
Well, 3.5 million. If they're almost doing $1 billion in revenue, yeah, it'd be about 3%, or no, 0.3%.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, it's small. Yeah, and it's the second time that it's happened. So sometimes it's worth. So here's the thing, Tanner. There was this thing with Kim Kardashian where she was pumping crypto, and those cryptos were just rug pulls, straight rug pulls. So everybody would go buy the crypto, they pull, everybody lost their money. But she got $1 million or 10 million or whatever. I don't know how much money she made off of it. She was paid a certain amount of money to advertise that. And then they came in and hand slapped her and said, don't do that. That's illegal. What you're doing. You can't promote that way. And she got fined, whatever, $1 million or whatever. Well, if I'm making 10 million and I'm getting slapped $1 million, it's still business as usual, right? So it makes sense. So when you are marketing a certain way and you're attracting patients, I'm just speaking in general, and there's a cost to doing business in there, and it still financially makes sense to continue to do it, then you continue to do it.
So obviously we think that they could continue to do this. We think that there's some tweaking that you could do to better advertise and still remain in kind of the gray area. But I honestly think that the biggest impact that this will have will be other dental offices in Massachusetts will now up their alarm game because they don't want to get slapped with the same thing. I also think that there's a loud cheer in Massachusetts of, yay, the big guy finally lost at least a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. See, because I'm reading the article from the Attorney General in 2001, December 2001, and it says Aspen Dental falsely advertising having no hidden fees, but trained its scheduling center representatives that they were not permitted to advise potential patients of certain fees that were usually associated with emergency appointments. So they were advertising one thing, training another thing. Now, it could be, let's be empathetic, it could be that it's just hard to run a big business and marketing wasn't on the same page with the call center.
I mean, and honestly, though, too, the whole of like, what's it going to cost me? Like, I can guarantee you, just like every other DSO faces, hey, my tooth really hurts. What's it going to cost me to get it fixed? We're like, I can't tell you what it's going to cost you because I don't know what it is clinically. So I could see them teaching their call center to say, we can't give you a fee. And that totally makes sense, just like every other dental business.
So let's walk through that. How could this happen? Let's be empathetic or let's try to stillman Aspen's side of it. How can something like this happen? So I could see how the phone training could happen. That would be easy, where we're on the marketing team, Tanner and I, and we're like, okay, how can we best get people in? Let's do no cost for coming into the office. It's no cost to come in for an emergency. That's a lot of our patients come in through that. People who are, lower dental IQ and they have pain that they haven't dealt with before, and they have, dental treatment that they're going to need. So this is going to be advantageous for us to try to get them in through the door. Let's do no cost. But then at the same time, someone else is working with the call center and they're like, look, guys, we can't advise them how much these fees are going to be because it varies too much. Like you really have to be careful in how you're communicating those things, because then you're misrepresenting to the patient potentially, because you don't know what they have. If they just have a pain and they're going to need an implant, you can't give them cost for a root canal. And you're diagnosing now on the phone and you're just not qualified to do that. So I could see how those two would disconnect.
Here's another way that I could play the still man on the free services thing, right? Within an organization, the most valuable patient by far is the patient that's in pain immediately, right? Like you want to get them in. So you could, like a lot of groups will say, free exam and x-rays for limited patients. And then it's kind of a caveat of if you get the work done that day or if you start work that day, right? And so now all of a sudden they come in, they get diagnosed, they can't financially get that work done, they leave. And now all of a sudden it's okay, I'm going to charge you for this exam and x-rays, even though the marketing said free exam and x-rays if you get the work started. Right. So I wonder if in that practices, it was like, hey, free exam and x-rays, that's what they see and understand. And that's what they got the lawsuit over was, hey, we ended up charging these people that didn't get the work done here because
I see what you're saying. Here's another one from the 2001 lawsuit. It says Aspen Dental deceptively advertised the price of dentures and the existence of money back guarantees for dentures without disclosing limitations on the offer.
Yeah. Money back guarantee. I know that's so especially dentures. Dentures are one of those that are like so hard to get right. But to be honest, if it attracted more people to your organization and sure, 1 in 10 fails, yeah, I'd be more than willing to give money back because all of a sudden now I'm getting the additional 10.
You have to include all the limitations though. There's so many limitations in that. You can't just say money back guarantee. There's so many limitations. I wonder.
So what's the rules around those limitations? How explicit, how upfront, like how visible do they need to be? How accessible do they need to be?
It's so tricky, Tanner,
limitations apply, and then there's like a website that's like hidden in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so tricky. And I'm not a lawyer, right? I'm a marketing guy. Keep that in mind. So I'm just going to full disclosure on this. But it's so tricky because in the old day of advertising, like if you did a billboard, if you did a phone book or something like that, it was so easy because you're like, here's the rules. Just go ahead and just put this on your thing and you're good, right? Your lawyer would be like, copy and paste this into your ad, put it in here. It has to be at least this font and you're good. And that was so simple, right? Same with television, right? That's why when you watch these drug commercials, they're like, hey, take our drug. It's going to make you so happy. It's going to fix all your problems. And at the end, it's like, it may cause this, it may cause this, it might cause this. And they say it really fast. Right. They do that because they've been legally advised that that's what they have to include. Here's what makes it really tricky. We make digital ads that we only get like 100 and something words, right? Or 100 and something characters, not 100 and something words. We have ads that only get so many characters, and there's a click to call button on that ad. You might not even go and ever look at the landing page with all the stuff, all the legal stuff, all the stuff that's there. So it's like you really get into this world. Same with social media. It's you're only allowed so many characters and so many things and so much time. And there's literally not enough characters to put all the disclaimers into it. And this is why Google, so here's a little thing to know for people out there. If you advertise Botox on your dental website, Google straight up will shut down your website, and not shut it down from a public appearing standpoint, but they'll just stop showing your ads. They'll stop ranking you, and they just do it very passively. And over time, you'll just notice like you kind of disappear from the internet, but you can still access your website. You can still go to it and you can't figure it out. If you have Botox on your website, it's an approved substance. And to get that improved substance is a whole process you have to go through. And there's people out there that do it, but it's like selling pain pills online. You have to go through a process to do that. And then when you go through that process, you're proving to Google that you're following all these rules. Dentistry doesn't have that. Dentistry doesn't have that process that you go through. So you're kind of left on an island there in between both worlds. And it gets really, really tricky.
Yeah. I remember once this is prior to my SMC days when I was going through my 8 other marketing companies that I went through. I remember running my own ortho ads and doing that on Facebook, trying to do some A/B testing, and just Facebook would just shut it down because it was like, you're trying to create an image of what ideal looks, something like this. I don't remember exactly the language, but it was like, you're trying to create an image of like what perfect looks like. And we're trying to like fight back against this like ideal person and target and stuff. And so yeah, it was fascinating to me that obviously I was selling legal things in a legal way, but they shut down my my advertisement because of it.
Yeah. Facebook has all kinds of crazy laws. You used to, in the good old days, you used to be able to target anything and everything and say pretty much whatever you wanted. And then after all the election stuff, they shut that down, and you can't target the same way that you used to be able to target. Like you could target anything.
So take me back to the basics. I'm curious kind of what your knowledge is. What are guidelines of dentists of what you can and can't advertise, or how you can and can't advertise?
That's a good question. So it's state by state. I'm going to share the things I do know. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm a marketing guy, and this is what I've been told. We had Brian Kaleo from Dykema at our last conference, and he did a whole thing around this. So it's state by state. And so really, if you follow the federal guidelines, though, then you're going to be safe. I know one of the things that people always get slapped on over and over and over again is they'll say, we are the number one at whatever. And I love that one because it actually converts at a higher rate.
Built into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it also converts because you're starting your ad with a hashtag and a number one, which stands out more than text by itself. So we've played with that. We've done like 5-star rated, things like that. You can say that 5 because you are 5-star rated. But when you make definitive claims that you are the best and you're not, you can't definitively prove I'm the number one dentist, right? Then that's where you get yourself in trouble. Now, here's where the trouble comes. It's never, so when these lawsuits come in for like Aspen, then people talk about it and it's $3.5 million, but the attorney general is probably not going to go after a single location for, a minor infraction. So where the trouble actually ends up coming is that when you say things like we're number one, your fellow dentist go and complain to the board and the board comes and talks to you. That's where I've seen the most traction of offices doing things that they're not supposed to do. So that number one thing is one that I see all the time. Now, in some states, in some areas, it's not a big deal. People do it and no one says anything. In other states, I've seen people immediately get cease and desist letters from the dental board folks.
Interesting.
I'm trying to think what else, like big ones that I've seen over and over and over again.
I'm on the ADA one. I'll read through this. I'll be interested to see kind of what it says. And we can chat about it then on our next episode. You
have it right there?
It's really long.
Oh, it's really long.
I have it up here right now, but it's just super long.
Okay. I think this is very, very interesting. Do you know anybody over? Here's the thing. Aspen is known as like the behemoth that knows how to market. Right? That's what they're known for, because they're known for patient flow. So I had somebody on a podcast yesterday and he said, Heartland is known for supporting doctors, not that great at patient flow, which makes sense because they have all the different brands. Everybody kind of does what they want. It's hard to manage that, right? But then Aspen has the single brand and they're known for, we figured out patient flow. We go to areas that people are not. And actually, this is perfect. The guy that I'm bringing on next week or the following week, he's actually from Aspen. He started his career. He started when they had it like in the teens offices, and he went all the way to 300 offices, and he was involved with recruiting. And I know he knows about some of this stuff. So that'll be interesting to have him on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that is true. Maybe
do you know anybody else there?
I do know some people that I just connected with one recently that started his career there. He was in practice operations, so kind of bringing them in once they started with them. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was. I'll have to double check on that. But yeah, I could talk to him, but I don't think he'll be involved in like the marketing aspect of it.
Well, I'll try to see if I can reach out to some people because I would love to get their take on this. Like, it's easy for us to read an article, but I would love to get their take on it. Cool. What was the other thing that you wanted to talk about?
So another thing too that this was a listener request. So just as a caveat for all of you out there listening, we do love kind of hearing what you want us to talk about and chat about. It's interesting to kind of see what's going on, people's interest out there. So I had a friend, dentist, DSO owner kind of reach out and say, hey, can you guys just give me the rundown of what it is in VC and dental and why VC is different and why I should care if I should care? Right. So I wanted to chat a little bit about kind of Revere Partner specifically and why VC and dental should matter to anyone in dental, especially kind of DSO owners. So let's start off kind of with the basics of what is the difference between VC and PE. I think this is something that people get a lot of confusion around. PE is obviously big funded money that they come in.
Private equity. So PE stands for private equity.
Private equity. Thank you. Yeah. Private equity. They come in, they buy usually a minority, if not a majority stake in a business. And that's how then they come in. They say, we take it, it's doing X amount already. They're taking the historical performance and they want to go in and triple that typically over the next 3 years in order to get their return 3 years later. Right. So it's kind of an arbitrage game, but they come in and actually buy in a portion of the business. Okay. VC, where VC is different, is these are a lot more early stage companies that they come in, they say, hey, we're going to invest in you. We're going to let you continue your ownership, but we're going to go in and actually dilute your ownership a lot of the time. Right. So what that means is they're not taking as much of a majority stake. They're kind of really coming in and saying, hey, we buy into your idea and your product, and therefore we want a return from that in a longer term return. Right. So PE is more about optimizing the model that exists. VC is more about, we believe in the idea and vision, and we want to help you execute.
And VC is usually newer businesses, right? Like they're more known for like startups and taking long shots, right?
Yeah. PE wants a more predictable return, right? VC is, we're going to come in and we invest in these less likely businesses, but when they do return, we're going to get 100 times return on our dollars.
That's a great way of breaking it down. So private equity, predictable, venture capital, VC is riskier, higher returns.
Yes. Okay. So VC in dental has not been specific to dental historically. Okay. Recently in the last, I don't even know how many years, I think probably in the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen the rise of the talk of VC in dental because of one specifically Revere Partners. Okay. Revere is made up, Jeremy Krell's kind of the founder, put it together. He's got a lot of the money, where the money comes from, right? These are called your LPs, your limited partners. These are people that invest in this fund in order to hopefully get a return. The thing that's unique about Revere, other VCs will invest in dental, but they may not be dental specific. Whereas with Revere, their whole LP system is made up of money that's been made in dental and that continues to have equity stakes in dental, right? So if I'm let's say, DSO owner of 100 locations, I made a lot of money. What do I do with my money? Well, I want to invest it back in dental, but I don't want to have to go and manage these companies or go in and pay attention to my investments, right? So instead, I would put it into a company like Revere and hope that in a period of time, I'm going to get returns from it. So why this is unique is that dental, usually when you need 100 times return on an investment, you need to go out, you're taking these moonshot adventures, right? Like everyone knows Uber or Airbnb, right? These are all VC-backed companies, but when they were tiny in the idea, the likelihood of them succeeding was very low.
Yes.
And so therefore the return when they do become
and there was
big
a lot of
huge.
other ones that tried that failed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the gamble you take as a VC is like 1 in 100 investments is actually going to return something great. So to have a dental specific one, I mean, the dental industry as a whole is only a $200 billion industry, which may seem really big, but from a VC perspective, it's actually really small. And so the reason why VC didn't exist in a dental only way is because there wasn't this opportunity to get 100 times return, right? You still have this high risk, but now all of a sudden you don't have this upside potential, right? But now if you go in and look at the way that Revere's doing it, it's very unique because what it is the people that are investing still don't have that upside potential like they would outside of dental, but they also have the ability to control the risk, right? Oh, hey, this product is something that I need within my 800 location DSO. So if I invest in this, I can almost guarantee a successful launch. Let's see what else they can do in the rest of the industry, right? So they have a lot more insights on what's needed and they have a lot more insights on success.
So not just investing in dental itself, but the companies that are supporting the dental industry as well.
Yes. So for example, one that they've invested in is Uptime Health. Okay. Uptime Health, Janesh, great company, very unique idea. They come in and say, hey, here's some money. And Janesh's idea is we're going to help you come in and take your, and I'm probably going to butcher this. So if Janesh, if you want to come in here and fix this, let me know. But we're going to take all of your facilities, right? All of the equipment in your offices, et cetera. Whenever it breaks down, we'll help you catalog it. So that way, if you have an issue, you need to get it fixed, you can easily use our platform to get it fixed. And then also we can help you kind of bring in new facilities. So it's a great business model, great execution. But now that they have investments from these LPs, it helps them get some traction on companies that will want to bring it in and essentially kind of a lot more predictably guarantee its success than it is if they didn't have people that could come in here and kind of help bolster that with some initial sales.
So awesome. Dental's growing up right in front of us, Tanner.
Another big thing that you'll see it too a lot in Revere's doing a big push on this. It's like own the equipment that or own the technology that you're using, right? So now they're opening it up to anybody that has some extra money that wants to invest. You can invest it into Revere. And now essentially you own a percentage of these tools that you're using in your office. So you're owning this software that you're using. It's kind of cool.
That is awesome. Well, this has been a good one, Tanner. This has been a really interesting show. I'm going to reach out to Aspen, try to get them on.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm excited. Revere, maybe we might have to have Jeremy on or sometime. It's a great model, but it really does change the way that dentists can invest. I had him on Dental Marketing Theory before.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. Have a good one.
Good chatting with you.
Bye-bye.